Over the past generation, women have made progress in the employment and professional field. However, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. Specifically, one of the industries that are still underrepresented include the STEM fields, which is science, technology, engineering, and math. To address this gap that's still there, there's a significant mindset shift that will need to take place for organizations, but also for young professional women who are starting off their career. To get a feel of what this looks like, today we'll be speaking to Dr. Mboni Kibelloh, who is the head of the Computing and IT department at Kampala International University in Tanzania. She is also the founder of Darasa Tech. This is a platform that aims to upskill youth to grow into their careers and also develop their passion. Karibu, Dr. Mboni.
Asante sana.
Very good to have you here today.
Thank you very much.
So, Dr. Mboni, you have a PhD, which is quite impressive. I'd like to start there. You've pursued your PhD at a very young age, and I'm sure there are challenges that you faced. Can you tell us a little bit about the challenges that you faced and if there were any stereotypes throughout your journey to get to where you are today?
Thank you very much for the kind words. Yes, there's definitely been stereotypes, and I would like to address them from two different angles. Mm-hmm. There are stereotypes which are externally, and then there are stereotypes which are internally.
Right.
So externally, you do come across people who, when you're job hunting or applying for jobs, and they look at your CV and automatically they decide that you don't fit, you're overqualified, or you just don't fit into the culture. And especially being young, they feel like, how can we have such a young person leading us or being part of our team? So definitely, yes, there's stereotypes, but also the internal stereotypes where you worry that, would I fit according to the stereotypes which are outside? Would I fit in an organization, and how would people perceive it when they find out that you're probably a bit more educated than them? And how would they allow you to fit into their own culture and their work environment? So one way that I had to overcome that was to just allow myself to be enough, to allow myself to take up space, to allow myself to own that, yes, I did do a PhD, yes, I worked for it, yes, I got it at a young age, but also to allow myself to be okay and good at what I'm doing. And mostly it's just to love myself to the best that I can. And I think that kind of mentality or mind shift allowed me to forge forward regardless of what is happening around me. And also with time, it also changed what was happening inside.
So what first sparkled your interest in working in the tech industry?
A little research I came across some time back that showed that women's contribution in STEM was very relevant and very important in the decision making. For example, women in leadership. I came to find out that when you have more leaders in an organization, then the organization tends to make the right decision, more balanced approach. You balance the masculine and feminine. I also came to find out in the film industry, they found that the more directors they have who are female, females made more movies which are appealing to females, and therefore they spoke to the female audience as well as the masculine, as compared to how male would direct movies, because they understood that even women have purchasing power, that women can make decisions and women opinions matter. I then also found out that in the tech field, women's opinions absolutely count, because their perspective would inform what kind of designs should be made and how to run projects and how to make products which were appealing to that market, because for the longest products were made for male. And so when I found that out, I knew that I had a place in the tech industry.
And you had a role to play.
And I had a role to play to make sure that I was helping lift other women in the tech. So it's something that I don't think I want to get out of. I would like to stay as long as possible and to see how I can help lift other people as well.
Very interesting. So, Dr. Mboni, you're an academician, and you at Kampala University, you work as a lecturer as well, which I believe you are actually teaching and grooming younger professionals to grow in the IT and computing industry,
Sure.
which is the STEM industry. How is that? How is that going? And in terms of, from your perspective, how is it, especially when you're grooming the girls? What are the challenges that you face there?
Well, I find that the number of girls, first of all, who enroll in computing is not as high as the number of boys or number of females compared to number of males. I also find that the females who end up enrolling are often very timid and very shy, and they like to stay in the corner. They like to group up amongst girls, and they don't want to raise their hands and speak, and they don't want to share their ideas, and are not confident about what they know. So I make it my business to reach out and force these ideas out of them in the manner in which I present the learnings and teaching. So I would, conjure up some project scenarios. I would make sure that there is no session that goes by that nobody contributes, that everybody contributes, and I would especially pick on the girls to make sure that they have used that platform to practice pitching and sharing their ideas, and communicating with their fellows in the form of a project. And I always group them up anyway.
Right.
So I create that kind of a nurturing environment. They might not feel it at the beginning that it is a fulfilling environment, but at some point at the end they will understand what was the whole agenda to begin with.
And you're building their confidence.
I do build up their confidence, and I see that by the end of a semester I could tell, and I always tell them, see, like right now you can actually speak up in class and you can share your ideas.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. You've mentioned girls staying in their corners, staying in the background and not really speaking up. That reminded me of the concept of an imposter syndrome. What do you think about that?
Oh, the imposter syndrome is like, the way I look at an imposter syndrome is like a wall that women, we like to hide behind that wall. And when we feel that we don't want to take up space, when we feel it is not safe to speak out and to voice our opinions, and to be good, actually, it's just we don't feel that it's okay to be great. And so we hide behind that wall because it's actually man-made. It's our own. Sometimes it can be a result of an external factors that have contributed to us building this wall, but most of the time it's like you build it yourself because you're afraid that you might not be accepted if you come out as really you. You might not be accepted if you're really great and shiny. So the imposter syndrome is when you feel maybe I'm not enough, maybe I'm not so good enough. And I think a lot of people go through it without even admitting they're going through it. A lot of women sit in the boardrooms feeling inadequate and not enough.
Or a fraud.
Or fraud. Like
even
actually,
if
they find out that you got your PhD, you got your engineering, you're a project, you're head of projects, you're head of some unit, like, but you still have that feeling like if they find out that I'm actually not so good, but who says you're not so good?
It's all in the mind.
It's all in the mind, and it's something that can only come out if you actually address it head on, and you just fight it until it leaves your mind.
Exactly. So the mentoring and grooming that you're doing to the younger girls who are still in university, the girls that you teach, are you seeing elements of that in the efforts that you're putting in? Is it helping them overcome that?
I do see a lot of that because they know they're good. They know they're as good as the boys, but somehow they feel that they're not as good. So when I even create that platform to speak up, it kind of reinforces something in it rewires their brain. Like, you know what, if I spoke something and everybody bought my idea, I think I may be good.
Right.
So it kind of defies that until it becomes, an old story, and it no longer has life and it's no longer relevant.
And I'm sure you're a great inspiration to them. You're an example of where from the journey that you had to go through to actually even get to the position of getting a PhD and heading an ICT department. That's a very good inspirational story as well.
Thank you. Thank you for the kind compliments.
Let's talk about Darasa Tech, your initiative that you funded, which is a platform, and I see that you're doing a lot of very good things to help upskill young professionals and non-professionals. You're basically mentoring and coaching and helping them find their way in their careers. Can you talk a little bit about this initiative?
So, yeah, I can talk a little bit about it. So this initiative is a continuation of what I already do, which I lecture. But in this case, I'm providing a platform for, the non-conventional kind of education or the training, not necessarily for 3 years, but for shorter time, and just letting people know that it is okay not to know tech and just jump in and start from zero to hero. Like, you can actually come in and learn a few things and employ that in your own life, like as an entrepreneur, or as you can upskill and take that back to your workplace. So I'm trying to create the environment that makes it okay not to know tech, but
Right.
you don't need that kind of experience, you do not need that kind of educational background, but you can just dive in from anywhere, from wherever you are, get the skill and move forward, because we are living in the times where we cannot run away from technology. So I'm creating that environment and that safe place for people to feel that it's okay
Very
to learn up and coming trendy stuff for the future.
Very interesting initiative. Where do you want to take this? How far do you see this project going?
I feel like I need to take this far because I feel like it's a calling. I need to talk to more youth. I need to talk to as many youth as possible who can take this knowledge, take and nurture their own talent, and go and employ themselves. We know there is a challenge of employment in the country.
Right.
So I want to address that group of people who would have sat under the tree and said there's no employment. And I could tell them, hey, you know what? You can learn how to make mobile apps. You can learn how to make a website. You can learn how to repair phones. And you can employ yourself. You probably just need your mobile phone to do that. You already have a mobile phone and you're playing games with it. So why don't we use that to make money?
Right.
Yeah, so I want to reach as many youth as possible and just show them how simple tech is. Just bring it to their level and show them possibilities of how they can change their lives.
That is absolutely amazing, I think. Very big contribution. Let's talk about the theme of this year's Women's Day, this year's International Women's Day. The theme is breaking the bias, yeah? Especially in the field of STEM. We see that it's definitely underrepresented. There's few women in technology, and it could be for several reasons. Could be the perception as well. I think it all starts with this perception. Yeah, science. From a younger age, girls are brought up to think that science is tough. Science is not for us. So as we continue to address this bias, let's talk about breaking this bias. What is the contribution that you think stakeholders, specifically in your academic educational sector, what do you think are some of the things that such educational stakeholders can do to contribute to continuing to break this bias?
It's a very good question, very, very important question. I think it's a continuing question we need to continuously ask ourselves. But just to start where we are, it is not enough sticking to the curriculum as it is. We need, as educators, to go in the classroom with more than the agenda of teaching the subject, with the agenda of also molding the mindset, with the agenda of sharing our history, sharing our accomplishments, especially as women. It is okay to share what we have accomplished,
Right.
and perhaps somebody might be motivated and inspired, but also moving from the role of a lecturer or a teacher, but also as a mentor, all in one session. So teaching them that, you know, you, with this, what I'm teaching you now, you can actually go and do that. You can actually become this. You're showing them possibilities other than just what the curriculum said. Like, today we're going to learn how to, you know, wire that or this, you know. So just stepping out of the border and exerting more influence and more assertiveness and with intention of molding. So if we go in more mindful, I think we get better results. But it doesn't help when we play small. We shouldn't play small. If you know you are doing something amazing, it is your divine right to share it with the world and use whatever platform you have to inspire. Like, if you make it and you're great and you're a doctor, you're an engineer, you're a project manager, and you keep quiet, that's not doing anybody a favor. In fact, dimming your light does nobody a favor. So the more noise we make out there, the more we use our platforms to share this message, the more girls will, you know, have that light bulb going aha moment where they, you know, if she can do it, then I can do it. So it's a day-to-day thing.
Do you think the younger girls have enough mentors around? Do you think there's enough mentors?
I think, going back to your point of imposter syndrome, I think there are a lot of mentors walking around not knowing that they're mentors because they're hiding behind the wall of the imposter syndrome. If more people love themselves and drop that imposter syndrome and know that they have an obligation, that they are models in whatever area they are, then they will assume the responsibility of reaching out and hand-holding the people behind them and letting them stand on their shoulders for greatness. So I think healing begins with you and me. Like, if we accept who we are and what we have done, then it's easy for us to shine light on other people. So there are role models out there who don't know that they're role models, and once they know that, then I think would have quite a number of role models, not necessarily in STEM, but in many areas.
Very nice. Thank you, Dr. Mboni. I want to ask for any final advice, well, not final, but advice that you would want to give all the aspiring women who want to grow in tech, but also advice that you would give younger girls out there who are sort of looking for a sense of direction, who maybe are aspiring to get into tech, but I'm not sure how to get into tech, maybe too scared that it's too hard. What do you want to tell them? I know you are a mentor and a coach already, but yes.
I would have suggestions and recommendations threefold. I would have one for the girls. I would have one for the government, actually, because we can't not talk about government when we're talking about STEM and how we can help the system. I would say that with government, it would be nice to have centers around the country. Maybe government in partnership with organizations, but centers across the country where, just like the way libraries, you would go to a library and find books and read. Can we go to hubs and find computers and just play around and then go home? Let us not find these computers when we come to university and then all of a sudden you have to learn the courses and you have to find where is ABC. Can we play around with these gadgets before? But for the girls, I know there's that fear of, like, I cannot do program, I can't code. But programming is not the only thing about tech. There's so much more. And if programming is not your forte, it is okay. It is not for everyone. Everybody can be a programmer. When you're building a house, you'd have people who are the masons, you'd have the carpenters, you'd have the painters, you'd have,
It's very diverse.
It's very diverse.
Plenty of skills.
There's plenty of skills needed. Why are we focusing on coding? You can, if you're a designer, you can be a UX designer, user experience, and just tell us what kind of experience would facilitate our work. If you're a graphics person, why don't you stick with the graphics? If you're a tester, test. If you're really have keen attention to detail, like You could be that person who says, I think this application is not going right because it is lacking 1, 2, 3. Somebody else has already coded. But if you're a researcher, why don't you help us research what do people want for the application? What do the people want for this website? So there's room for everybody.
Right.
So people should not be scared and just think that, you know, it has to be about coding. You know,
It's
if you
a
left
lot
everything
more
to
diverse,
the coders
huh?
who do not have any experienced coders and nerds, they just sit in the lab. They don't even interact with people. They depend on other people to help facilitate their work. So we need everybody. And we need the female perspective in everything.
Exactly.
We really need the way they think, so that, you know, so that we get a more comprehensive outlook towards the products we produce and the projects we have. You know, women have, you know, very good analysis skills, communication. They integrate people in projects very well. They understand the needs of the people very well. They just nurturers, so they understand, like, if I include this feature, this will be very helpful, as opposed to men. Why are we excluding women in that decision making?
So that's what we're aspiring to continue to build, a more inclusive, a more diverse world where, you know, the products that are coming out, the services that are being offered in all industries to be more inclusive as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mboni. It's a pleasure having you here. Pleasure talking to you, and I hope we can continue this discussion another time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. As a project management firm, HEBO seeks to upskill and reskill professionals in all fields who are actually managing and leading projects. What I want to do is encourage all the women out there to continue to pursue your dreams, continue to upskill and diversify and manage those projects and lead your teams accordingly.